This week on the Legion Clubhouse, the Legion are reformed. And what of Celeste Rockfish?
They were the heroes from the future. Teenagers protecting the universe from those that would sow the seeds of chaos. Each had unique powers and abilities. And though they often had their differences, they came together to save the day as the Legion of Superheroes. Now, you can be a part of their adventures and learn the history of the future in the Legion Clubhouse.
So a big indicator right there on the cover that the Legion get the team back together.
Yeah. We're getting the band back together is what we're doing. You can tell because it says right on the cover.
Yes. It says Rebirth, right? Rebirth. Mm-hmm. Too bad Celeste Rockfish. I think she's going to get better. As much as Brainiac 5 is this 12th level intellect, I think Celeste Rockfish is going to get a whole lot better because of her little visit from our little green friend.
Our little green glowy friend. And they've been, hasn't it been like 6 issues that we've just had this mysterious green glow floating through the sky? And
the green glow showed up in the same episode, in the issue before the introduction of Andromeda.
Okay, so it would have been 6.
And it only, and so that was only right there at the end of the issue, which made you think that somehow, Supergirl, Laurel Kent, or whatever hell her name is, was somehow related to the Green Lantern power, or the fact that she and what's his name were hooking up. That maybe
Rond.
Those were somehow connected. But no, the green light kept continuing until it reached almost like it was following Celeste across the galaxy, and it goes into her hospital room and envelops her in its greenish embrace, not a golden embrace. A greenish embrace.
Yeah, it looks kind of like the Lochnar, but it turns out that Celeste, once upon a time, saved a dying Green Lantern, just like Hal Jordan.
Well, we don't know that yet. I think that's coming up in a couple of issues.
It's on page 3.
Does it say that she saved a Green Lantern there?
We see her. She's in a coma. We see her.
Okay. I was wondering what the heck that was because it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me when I was reading that, and I was like, okay, what's going on here?
That's the point where we meet her cousin Leland McCauley.
Yeah.
And then we see her flashback to a crashed Green Lantern in some weird kind of ring, and how something happened with the glow of the Green Lantern's ring, and then boom, all of a sudden she's glowing in the dark. And
yeah, okay. That makes a lot more sense now, because I was just like,
hey, what's going on?
I have no idea what's going on with this flashback. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It's all in her head,
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of moments like that, I think, in this issue or in the next issue, where you're just like, okay. I think it doesn't help that her memories are green, so that when you do see Brainiac and our little Irish friend and Lightning Lad going into the hospital room, or no, Kono is going into the hospital room with Brainiac, that it's also the same color and shading. And so I think that's what threw me, because I was like, why is it all of this the same kind of color shade, making things up? We also find out that the fur ball is in fact Timberwolf, if you hadn't figured that part out yet. The full moon is out. His Eclipso powers have gone away.
Stop saying Eclipso powers.
And he can go and run around naked on Winamp until the moon goes away, apparently. He's like a reverse werewolf.
Right, he's a wolf. He was a man, now he's a wolf. But
no, it's actually the opposite. He's a wolf until there's a full moon, and then he turns back into a man.
He was a man. And this is interesting. I can't remember if this is the first time we've seen it, but Zune, his home planet of Zune, is now spelled after the Mon-El revamp launch boot. Basically, after the Glorith retcon, it's no longer spelled Z-O-O-N. It's spelled Z-U-U-N. It's still apparently pronounced Zune.
Yeah.
And I cannot for the life of me remember if we've seen that anywhere in previous issues, but it struck me here that I was like, oh yeah,
Furball has been a mystery in the 3 times that he's appeared in these 12 issues.
But there's been so much back matter and so much discussion of, heroes doing this and heroes dying and some mysterious thing that happened, actually 30 or 40 mysterious things that happened in the 5-year gap. But yeah, I remember seeing this issue. And when I first read it, I was 18, 19 years old, completely missed the foreshadowing because, I was a punk. But, oh, man, the moment where you're like, Furball is actually Timberwolf and he's got his old Dave Cockrum head back. I was just like, what?
Man, Marvel's going to be so upset when they realize DC has stolen their Wolverine again. I know, right? The other thing that is really that surprised me is that we get to see the return of Colossal Boy, right? Mm-hmm. But also, it looks like he went back to being a science police officer, which I found very fascinating. We had that big backstory tale of him before everything blew up, and he was science police, and that's what led him to become, part of the Legion. And now he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to go back to being a space cop again.
Mm-hmm. Well, he did have the terrible leg wound that he never quite actually seemed to recover from back in Volume 3. So there's a number of ways where, if you figure he's now in his late 30s, I figured the team's in their late 30s at this point. He's pushing 40. You can't be Colossal anymore. Sometimes you got to be a cop. Because, if you can't be a big man, at least you can act like a big man. You can be like, hey, get off the corner here, Johnny. Push people around in your little weird bucket hats.
Yeah, let's say that.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's kind of funny that Rakshas is giving away the connection to the Dominators by painting a big red circle of blood on his forehead.
And as soon as he's taken into custody, he's just singing like a bird. And I love the scene where near the end of the issue, we see the Dominators realize that he's just telling everybody, you literally sent a man who is mad and has been mad for 15 years. You send him in to be your secret agent. That's just dumb.
I forget if it was, maybe it was last episode's back matter, where they talk about him changing. And there's a whole point where you're like, oh, from Rakshas's original appearance to now, did he have some kind of surgery? Was there something that went on where the Dominators promised him this new look, this new lease on life, if only he will become their secret hitman? And now that Jonah has busted the crap out of his face and probably
turned him into Jonah Hex,
probably turned his mind a little bit wonky, that he's just really ready to just say, hey man, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, he says he can't trust any of them. So
he is paranoid. He has, multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder, a comic book version of it, but he has, he is mentally ill, and he's also bleeding to death. He got Ultra Boy'd hard. And I really do. I love the fact that in this issue that it's Jan. It's not Ultra Boy. It's Element Lad who says, we can't let him die. Ayla and Vi are just like, we'll just let him sit here and bleed out. And Jan is like, nope, we can't do that. This is a man, Roshas killed his family, everyone he knows, his whole planet. Literally, this is the man who murdered everyone he knew as a child. And Jan is just like, nope, we have to help him. We've got to take him to the hospital. This is about us and how much of us would die in the room. And I'm just like, Legionnaires don't kill. Yes.
Except they're pretty much ready to let him kill, and Jonah was about ready to kill him. So, you've got that going for you. You got that going for you.
Joe was in a blood rage. I'll grant you that. And
I mean, Starboy didn't do anything, and look what happened to him.
You can't trust Starboy. What?
He didn't kill anybody.
I do like that, though. That Jan moment is really nice, and I think it kind of also explains, who he is now. He's kind of gone off, and he's become, I don't know, maybe like a wandering monk or an ascetic or something, and he's just like, I'm walking the earth, having adventures, but also this terrible murderer who killed my mom and my dad and my sister and my cousin Elwood.
I don't think he's having adventures. I think he's keeping track of his planet, making sure nobody is showing up to do bad things. And the legend
right now.
The legend of his powers has kept people away. That's kind of how they introduced him, as this scary old hermit living on the planet. And if you go down there, he's gonna kill you. We do see, though, speaking of death and destruction, Chameleon Boy is alive and well, but we already knew that. He's dressed up as the Time Trapper, which, I've always said is somewhat sus. But there you go.
He gets the purple robe from his dad, who was the Durlin of the Legion 89 team. So.
Yes.
It's
a robe as the Time Trapper.
He inherited that robe.
Doesn't matter.
From his dad. His dad's robe.
Although, save it for the next issue, the annual that's coming up. But we do get to see the new emblem. We don't really get to see the costume in full or on people's bodies. But we do get to see the introduction of the Superman replacement in the future, one Kent Shakespeare, who is fighting alongside, or fighting not alongside, but fighting against the Persuader and his mighty axe.
His atomic axe. And it really is kind of frustrating to me, because the Persuader has always had like the weird featureless helmet. And here, Keith has redrawn the helmet to look almost exactly like the helmets worn by the Science Police.
I am not sure that is the Persuader's original helmet. The way I read it was during his breakout, he took the helmet from one of these people, from one of the Science Police.
Oh, you think he stole an SP helmet? Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, he's like, I need a helmet. Give me your helmet. No, I'll never give you my helmet. Then I will rip your head off.
He's got that mouth on it.
No, I think it's stolen. Also, Iron Man would be very upset if he found out the Persuader stole his helmet.
Iron Man didn't look like this in '89. Thank you very much.
I understand using Kent as a reference to the Kent family back on Earth, and being somewhat of a descendant of. I think he's somehow somewhat a descendant of the Kents. But it's the Shakespeare part that has always confused me. I don't know if it's just like, hey, Shakespeare's a cool name, or what the whole point of naming him Shakespeare is. If it's just some inside joke like Celeste Rockfish, or if they are going for something here.
See, I don't know that the Shakespeare is necessarily a reference to anything. If it is, I've never heard it.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know why I couldn't find anything about it other than, well, it's probably a reference to William Shakespeare. It's like, okay.
Well, the thing in Kent's back story that never actually shows up anywhere but in the 2995 source book is Kent grew up in New Rochelle with his parents, Rob and Laura Shakespeare. And he lived in a little house, there, and the basic thought process is that in order to give Kent kind of an idyllic sort of a background, like, Superboy grew up, his parents, they were the salt of the earth. So they made Kent's parents literally Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the only thing that I really remember about Kent, other than he's sort of kind of the Superboy analog, and he is an interesting character. And I do like the fact that he actually wears glasses, because there aren't a lot of characters that do. And in the future, you kind of have to ask yourself, if he wears glasses and nobody else does, is it like a statement? Or is it just one of those things?
They're hypnotic glasses, hypno glasses.
To keep you from
figuring out who he really is.
Little Richie Shakespeare from New Rochelle.
Yeah, see, that's how that works. Yeah. So we do get to see, I do think that there's an odd bit of, and I'm not reading this in the original version, right? This is the digital version that you can get on Comixology. We get to see the Legion logo appear, and then suddenly we get this big page, the Legion of Superheroes. And my first read through, I'm like, oh, that's the end of the issue. That makes a lot of sense. It felt like it read kind of fast, but there you go. Click the next page. I'm like, holy crap, there's a whole bunch more story going on. And it feels weird to have that full page well, I shouldn't say it's a full page splash for sure, but it's like a full page title sequence. And I'm just like, I'm thrown by that because it really breaks up the story or the issue, realistically, like putting a big old commercial right there in the middle of your TV show, and you're not ready for it.
I kind of like it for two reasons. Keith has been very much locked into his 9-panel grid, and having that full page. If this were like a trailer, you imagine this is a trailer of coming events. Oh no, what's going to happen? Oh man, hey, we got suits now.
This would be the very last thing you see in the trailer when they reveal the title of the movie. You
sent them on a mission, and they all went. And Rock's like, yeah, they listened to me. Legion of Superheroes.
Yeah, that's where you end your trailer. It's not you don't put in your title screen and then say, "Oh yeah, by the way, there's another 5 minutes of trailer coming up." It is a weird break in the flow of this issue. I like it as if the issue ended right there, I'd be like, "Heck yeah, man, that's pretty cool." But it just I think it blocks the flow of what's going on here.
I think it's an intentional break, and I think it's just kind of meant to be like,
well,
this is the point where
I'm reading this as a digital version, single page at a time. In the physical version, you would get to that page and go, "Oh man, there's still a lot more comic book left." But in this version, it's hard to tell how much more you have left. Or if you're reading this in one of the omnibus collections, it's still hard to tell how much of this issue you have left. Does that make sense?
I get it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then, like I said, the whole second half is just introducing one old character and one brand new character as they fight it out. And it looks like poor Kent Shakespeare is not going to be long for this earth.
I think that maybe the best persuader's kind of over reading his strength here, but yes. And I remember being very puzzled by Kent because they never really give us a whole lot of context. And I think when Kent pops up again, we do, they refer to him here as that kid who used to be a Legionnaire. But there's not really a clear explanation of where this all comes into place because of kind of the way that I think this whole retcon was put together.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, before they had to do the issue 4 and 5, and they had to do the Mon-El punch and the whole new different reality, and then everything is different. Was Kent going to be part of this as like a stand-in character?
I don't think so. I think if they would have been able to continue on, keeping on, this would have just been Superman showing up. But I do find it funny. Now, we haven't gotten to this part yet. I think it's issue 13. Where Kent Shakespeare gets his name, ladies and gentlemen, the first appearance of Impulse.
Predating, by the way, Bart Allen by about 8 or 9 months.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they had to change that and give him a different name. So, yeah, that was cool. Interesting issue. I like the Omnicom where Chameleon Boy is writing to Marla saying, "No, Marla, make these idiots not change the costume. Please keep it the exact way that I want." And then we get a little back history of the Persuader as well. One of the things that did stand out for me in that section is that the Starfinger line continues. In that now we are up to Starfinger the Third. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So there you go. You like this issue? Don't like this issue?
I love this issue. I feel like this is what the first year of the book was building to. And I feel like it successfully does what it intends to. It wraps up the Roshas. It wraps up the beginning of, oh, by the way, EarthGov hates you. United Planets doesn't really exist. This is a bunch of Legionnaires have been all moving together. And now we actually have a Legion. We have a team of people doing team things under the leadership of a guy. We've got suits. We don't have code names. You're not going to get code names for a while. And when we do, they're not actually very good code names. But throughout this first arc, all the best stuff that I love about this is kind of building to this issue. And I really do like the way, you get to the things like the Legion of Superheroes. And then kind of the rest of the issue, the second half of the going ends up kind of being that, and here's what's happening next week on Underdog, which I don't know. I always felt like that. We're going to set up a new story or a new bit of story or a new arc and introduce some different stuff. I like when it feels natural. Mm-hmm. And I like the way this whole issue comes together. Now, unfortunately, I don't want to say this and have it sound as terrible as I think it's going to sound. This is probably the point where things kind of do go off the rails for me.
Oh, yeah. No, overall, I really like this first year of this 5-year later storyline. It is confusing if you are not somebody. I feel like it is, you have to be a part of our club or else go away kind of mentality that's entrenched in these first 12 issues. But overall, as it starts to build up and you start to learn more and you start to figure out more, I think it becomes a lot of fun. And then there's certainly a lot of little retcon stuff that again, unless you're steeped in the lore, nothing happened. There seems to be somewhere, I don't know if it's in the Omnicon or where it's at. Mm-hmm. There seems to be a point somewhere in here where they talk about the Fatal Five was created by the Sun Eater crisis.
Yeah, that's correct.
Was that original that way, or is that a retcon?
No, that's legit.
Okay, I couldn't remember
way back. What was it? Like Adventure 352? You remember that the Sun Eater was coming to Earth.
Yeah.
And they're like, the Legion isn't powerful enough. We have to go and gather these 5 powerful villains.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't remember that. And again, that was something from the 1960s, maybe even earlier. Man, you got to be old to remember. You got to be old to remember that little bit. So I don't know. I did find it a lot of fun though, and we're going to get even more strange changes when DC releases the annual. So stick around. We're going to talk about that in just a minute.
If you enjoy the show, we would appreciate your support. You can find out more and become a Legion Clubhouse member at patreon.com/majorspoilers.
We've done a full year. DC is into its big annual events and releasing annuals like annuals should be released on a yearly basis instead of like, we're going to call this one an annual and 6 months later we'll do another one. We'll also call it an annual. And so this time we have seen how the world is changed when the Time Trapper is mucking about. We've seen how the world changes when Mordru is mucking about. But this time we get to see Glorith, and we get to see how she has been actually the one mucking about or trying to muck about and becoming essentially the new Time Trapper.
Yep. And the opening of this issue is really, really horrifying in a couple of reasons. In universe, it's horrifying because we see Glorith arrive on Daxam and literally assassinate everybody on the planet. She kills Daxam. And out of universe, you and I know that the reason this happens is to replace the death of Superboy.
Yeah.
So essentially, we are saying contextually here that Superboy dying is the equivalent of murdering a whole planet. I mean, okay, fine. But it does have the same effect in that it triggers the conspiracy that we saw back in Volume 3 with Saturn Girl, Brainiac 5, Mon-El, who's no longer Mon-El, and Duo Damsel, but adds in now Mon-El's cousin, Laurel. And so we see how the existence of the Time Trapper isn't there, but Glorith is literally taking his place at various points along the timeline. It's really kind of neat.
It is, and a disturbing, and also, I think maybe slightly jarring in the information that it's trying to portray, along with Glorith's working of the universe, We also get to see a new origin story of Jonah. And we also, and we get a kind of whatever happened to Bob Cobb kind of story going on in here, right? Because Marla goes back with Jonah like it was originally, but we do get to see kind of a whole different telling of that story, which is really weird.
We do, and it's kind of fascinating to see this because, stolen your word, we see Ultra Boy's first appearance retold without Superboy.
Yeah.
Instead of Superboy, they've gone back to try and meet Valor, but in so doing, Ultra Boy accidentally makes Valor aware of the conspiracy or, a possible attack by the Khunds.
So and the Dominators,
basically, he basically accidentally manipulates the time stream. And then we see a retelling of like several different Ultra Boy stories. The one where he fakes being evil back in Adventure Comics 316. And of course, the story that I'm so happy that they've retconned is that long arc where Ultra Boy was framed for murder. It turns out that Ultra Boy was pretending to be Reflecto, except it wasn't Ultra Boy. It was Ultra Boy in the body of Superboy pretending to be Reflecto. And all of this was kind of tied up with Pulsar Stargrave, Brainiac going insane, all of the madness with Brainiac creating Omega, trying to destroy the universe, finally having to destroy everything and use the literal Deus Ex Machina, the miracle machine, to stop Omega. This story puts Glorith behind Brainiac 5's madness. So it kind of helps to make Brainiac seem like he's less emotionally fragile. It makes Largand, Valor, that he's called now. I never really felt the name Valor. I don't like Valor. I don't feel it, but it gives him kind of a new lease on life. And it takes Ultra Boy, who has kind of bounced back and forth from I'm Superboy, which means I'm just a generic, cool, nice guy, and I'm, one of the Legion's big dumb jocks. And it kind of puts him in this role where he grew up in gang culture. He grew up on the streets, and Rule 1 on the streets, never let them know what you know. So for literally 10 years of his Legion career, Ultra Boy is aware of these strange things, this chronal anomaly having to do with Glorith, slowly putting it all together. And you realize Tom and Mary Bierbaum love Ultra Boy.
Yeah.
Ultra Boy is the bestest because he's a perfect actor. He gets the perfect girl. He joins the Legion. Everybody loves him. He's everybody's cool best friend. He beats out Reflecto, his planet's greatest hero. By the way, true fact, this is the first actual appearance of a Reflecto.
Yeah, I thought so.
Every other Reflecto has been either Ultra Boy or Superboy or somebody pretending to be Reflecto. So Reflecto, created about 1974, 75, first appears in 1990. So that's nice. But
and it just,
does.
It's a little bit confusing because while we know that Ultra Boy knows that Glorith is somehow behind all of these things, he can't tell anybody, and yet he's had Saturn Girl read his mind to reveal the big secret so that Glorith can read his mind to be distracted on how he put it. It's like a weird Columbo episode, right? Where everybody, Glorith is seeing how he put everything together, which gives the superheroes, the big bads like Laurel and others, time to show up and kick Glorith's butt and take her down. And also, Glorith destroys Mordru. I'm not really sure what happens when those two fight in the middle of nowheres, if it's a mental fight or what's going on. But it's a really weird fight.
Clear.
Yeah, it's really weird.
They don't really destroy each other, but they do. They take each other out. They basically hurt each other bad enough that neither of them is the giant overarching threat that we've seen them be.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw literally without the time trapper to kind of hem him in, Mordru literally took over the universe. So this is a story where Ultra Boy, who is the bestest and the smartest and the strongest, goes to the planet of the Magics and says to the Magickey Magicker,
pretends to be somebody.
He's like, I am but an old man, sir, and it seems to me that you're the most powerful creature in the world, save for one. It feels like a fairy tale, because really Ultra Boy, he tricks the most powerful wizard into going out, and then Glorith and Mordru beat each other bloody. Meanwhile, Mordru at no point recognizes a Legionnaire, realizes that this is a man wearing a fake
really
nose.
It's a really good disguise.
It must be, because, I mean, I'm not saying if I were a magician, I'd have magical senses. I'm just saying that if I were a magician, I'd have magical senses, but
probably not. So here's the weird part that I don't know if this
he channeled his ultra energy into acting.
Maybe that's what it was. Disguise. That's what Master of disguise. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing that's really weird about this issue. A couple of things. First of all, they just kind of in one panel and then a follow-up panel towards the end of the issue just eradicate Duo Damsel in this. So Duo Damsel is no longer around. She probably never got married to Bouncing Boy. She's just a little capsule on Shambhala. And then the other one that was... Go ahead.
That was her death during the conspiracy.
Yeah.
So we saw her die at the hands of the Time Trapper. So that's the death of the second Duo Damsel body.
I thought that was at some other point, not that Time Trapper fight. But then the other thing that's really weird is we also just get this Tinya bit where it's just like, okay, thing happened, she's going home, and then the end, she's dead, or supposedly dead, which is, again, just really weird. I mean, we've been doing this whole thing where we read his mind, and yet we're still doing origin story stuff after that part of the adventure is over. I don't know. This issue, this annual, it's big, it's long, it's an interesting story. It changes timelines completely again to where everything you thought you knew from issues 4 and 5 are still completely wrong. And at the same time, I'm not sure it gives satisfying endings to either Duo Damsel or to Phantom Girl, or that it really does much more for Ultra Boy than maybe what we've already seen. Maybe it's just showing that he can keep a thought in his head and not spill the beans. So I was not overly thrilled with this annual. The other thing that may have led to my dislike of the annual is the art style is radically different from what we were seeing in the regular series. The art here is Doug Braithwaite and
Doug Hazlewood.
Yeah, Braithwaite on his Batman run, I kind of also had a problem with. Here, the art looks a lot like Jaime Hernandez, which there's nothing wrong with Jaime Hernandez's art. I just don't think it is Legion of Superheroes stuff. It works really, really good for Strangers in Paradise, but not in a Legion story. And so I think the art really was something that didn't help me enjoy this issue.
I would agree. And for me, again, part of it, we saw in, was it 7 or 8? We had, I think it may have been Braithwaite, but we had another creator doing flashbacks to a time when the Legion was more of a traditional
still in their old,
yeah. And I feel like this is doing that, except it's kind of not. And that when I saw it going back and forth, where 9-panel grid, we're all adults, we do this, and then in the flashbacks, we're all wild and crazy. This issue kind of just throws us into the wild and crazy. And the whole issue is all over the place. And it covers, if you're looking at it in terms of the comics, it covers 35 years. In terms of the in-continuity, it's still got to be over a decade. And what it does best, what it really does, is establish that, okay, Ultra Boy, tragic figure, we've been hinting that something happened to Phantom Girl. Phantom Girl, turns out, was murdered by Glorith, Twilight Zone. Terrible, terrible things happened. And that's cool. I do like that. If it weren't for the fact that the next 5 years of story would decide that she is dead, and then she isn't dead, and then she is dead, and then it turns out she was never dead, but it's her twin sister, and also she's half Kargite, so there's 3 of her. I can't try. I mean, I can't.
I don't know if they are setting up the invasion storyline or trying to make this a bit of the invasion storyline when Jonah goes back in time and they kind of reveal the invasion is coming. I don't know if they're trying to tie that into the invasion event. I think that is really weird.
Invasion. So this is after the first one. They're talking
about the gene bomb. That's the invasion storyline that I'm talking about. That 3 issue event.
Yes, this story is a second invasion because the Dominator references the previous invasion, which was in the summer of '87.
Okay,
and so for all intents and purposes, the flashbacks here take place, I'm going to use air quotes, in regular time in 1990 in the DCU. So when we see Valor Mon-El, we're seeing Valor Mon-El as he was in 1990 as part of the flashback Legion Underworld Docs, sort of, kind of, maybe.
Yeah. Then there are a couple of things that I was just like, okay, that's kind of tired. That thespian joke that everybody knows. Hey, let's throw that thespian joke in here. Haha, that'll be really funny. I was like, nah, all right, go ahead with the wackety schmackities. And then at some point, we've been talking about how the Legion really kind of did a cool thing by changing curse language into things like Greif and, whatever else they have. But they actually have a character. Yes, Brock. They actually have a character in this issue literally screaming out, Jesus Christ. And I was like, wow, that really is out of place both for a DC comic and the Legion.
And it's Marla Latham.
Yeah. Way to go, Marla. Don't you know what the hip young kids are saying? Can't you say sus and bangin' and skibbity? Come on, Marla, get with the program.
Don't ever say skibbity.
I will say skibbity whenever the heck I want.
How dare you? But
it's in the dictionary.
It is weird because Marla's place in the universe at this point in time, as we saw in the flashbacks to, the point
RJ
where
Brand stuff,
RJ showed up in the future, his job is to go, oh man, RJ Brand, I sure am the local guy, so I could be a cabbage head for you when you talk about the past. Why would he use that particular 20th century turn of phrase? Because I'm glad that we haven't spent a lot of time talking about religion in the 31st century.
Oh man, but go back to the Christmas issue and listen to me rant on that.
Well, that's true. Well, yeah, but you rant. It's fine. It's what you do. I mean, yes, Jim, I guess, is Jewish, and we do have Clordney, but I don't think we've ever sat down and had a big discussion about, I don't know if you guys know this, Marla Latham is Greek Orthodox. I don't know. But that's one of the I'm going to be mean. Can I be mean? I'm going to be mean. There are bits and pieces of character stuff and things that come out in the dialogue that as Tom and Mary do more plotting or seem to be taking a larger role in the writing of the story, and as we see Keith step back, this issue is Tom and Mary.
Yeah,
this is all Tom and Mary doing backstory and awesome, cool, wackety woos. But as Keith steps back, we kind of see more of those moments where I'm just like, oh, why did that happen? Or what are we doing here other than showing, well, at one point this sort of kind of happened. And it's been my theory in the fan community since 1973, and now I'm going to get it in a comic book. I kind of feel like that was specifically to remind us that Tenzil exists, and that in this timeline, Tenzil was apparently with the Legion longer, or at least more consistently, because he's here at a point where we're looking at Shadowlass wearing her Volume 3 costume after the second death of Duo Damsel, and there's Tenzil, who at that point was not part of the Legion. So I feel like if we're going through and reading this and trying to actually look at it, it's another example of Tenzil is another one of our favorite besties, so we're going to make sure that he gets, treated well in the backstory. But God, that's a terrible joke.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, what did you think of these 2 issues? Was the first year of the Legion of Superheroes 5 years later a success in your mind, or was it problematic? Also, Legion Annual. good or maybe not so good? Share your thoughts over on our Discord server. You can join the Major Spoilers Discord server absolutely free. And then you can join all the other cool Legion Clubhouse members over there as they discuss all things Legion. Next time on the Legion of Superheroes, Manos is back. Could Thayrock Johnson be far behind? That's next time on the Legion Clubhouse.
The Legion Clubhouse is a production of Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC, and is produced by Steven Schleicher. Your hosts were Matthew Peterson and Steven Schleicher. You can follow Matthew at Mighty King Cobra and Steven at Major Spoilers. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Legion Clubhouse. If you have questions or comments, send them to podcast@majorspoilers.com. I'm Jason Inman. Until next time, eat it, Grandpa.
This podcast is copyright 2024 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.